This is Adobe Acrobat DC Pro Lab number 7, Working with Forms. So if you are following along in the book with this exercise, you'll find it on pages 242 through 266. Please note that the section for distributing forms, collecting the data, and working with form data we will not be doing in this lab. The reasons is that it uses an email client, which there's too much variance in setups on different PCs, so it's going to give us a lot of problems. So we're going to just skip that, but just be aware of the fact that you can, when completing these forms, you can distribute them electronically right from Adobe if you have the proper setup. And then when people email them back, you'll receive them, and it does collection and working with the form data to add all the totals up. But it's not something that we can do in this lab. So in this lab, we're going to go two different things here involving two files. The first one, we're going to open a file that's basically a picture of a form, and you'll see how Adobe can recognize where there should be fields, and it will add them where it can. And then we're going to add some fields ourselves. So a form is something like you see on the internet where there are buttons or radio buttons or text boxes and so forth that you can enter information in. In the second part, we're going to be going into the form and showing you how to actually validate and calculate numeric items on a form. All right, we're going to start by opening the file called meridianfeedback.pdf. And this is just a very plain file with some images on it and some text, but there are no form fields in there yet. So we're going to go ahead and create those by going to the Tools bar. I'm going to go down to under Forms and Signatures. We're going to click on Prepare Form. We're going to leave that as single file. Make sure this is not checked. Make sure auto detection is on, and then click the Start button. Now what this has done is identified some fields that are already placed in there, these check boxes and this field here, but that's just about it. So we're going to be adding some more. On the text field for other, where it says undefined, you can either hover over that and double click to get to the field properties, or you can right click on it and click on properties. When you get to there, under the general tab, we're going to change that to the word other text. Both the tooltip and the name. Once you've done that, you can click the close button. The next thing we're going to do is add a phone number on line 5. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the size of that a little bit so you can see it better. And then on item 5, we want to place a phone number. So click on the Add a Text Field option on top, and then move that box under 5, and then you can type a cell phone number, and click the All Properties button after that. From there, we're going to go to the Format tab, and under Form Category, we're going to select Special. And under Special, we're going to select Phone Number. So that will cause it to format in the form of a phone number, so they don't have to type in the dashes and so forth. So hit the Close button after you've done that. And then the last thing we're going to do is just increase the size of this a little bit by hovering over this dot and dragging it a little bit to the right. Next, we're going to add another text field, this time a larger field for feedback under number 4. So we're going to do it exactly the same way as before. Click the Add Text button and then click on the position that you want it in. And go ahead and type the words Other Feedback. And click the All Properties button. Now we're going to click the Options tab and make a few changes. We're going to make a limit to 350 characters. So click on Limit and change that to 350. And also change or add the option multi-line. So those two changes. And then hit the Close button. And then last thing we're going to do is click on this or hover over this corner and then click and drag to make this a larger field. Now before we continue, let's go ahead and test out these two fields that we've added. You can do that by clicking the Preview button on the top right. And now it's in preview mode, so we can click in there and add some text if we want. And also click in here and notice that when you type the phone number, you don't have to type any characters and it adds it when you leave the field. So we've tested this, we now know it works okay. Once we've done that, go up back to the top and click the Edit button so we can continue editing the document. Next, we're going to go to the top of the document. We're going to add radio buttons here. So the Acrobat did not recognize these as radio buttons. So we're going to add those. And a radio button, of course, if you don't know what that is a button where you can only select one at a time. These up here are different. They're check boxes, so you can check as many as you want. On a radio button, you can only push one or the other, and they go back and forth. So to add the radio buttons, we're going to go ahead and click on the radio button icon on top. And you get a little square. You're going to hover that over the dot next to the yes and click the mouse. And the first thing we're going to do is type the word yes and then attend again under group name. And we're going to check required fields, so one or the other has to be checked. And then we're going to click add another button so we can add the no button. So we've clicked for the no button, and we're going to go ahead and hover over that and click again, and it's again we're going to type no here, and then attend again is still there. And at this point you can click anywhere away from this yellow box and it will save it at that point. The next thing we're going to do is add some drop-down lists. So under 3, how would you rate your experience, we're going to start with this first one, environmentally responsible. And the drop-down list is this icon next to that OK button. You click on that and then hover down to right under that first option. And we're going to call this environment. It's not going to be required, but we'll click all properties. And then we're going to go to the options tab. So we're going to add the options 1 through 5 for the ratings, but also a double dash as the default value, so it starts with that. So if it's not already in there, just type 2 dashes or 2 minus signs and then click the add button. And then you can type each number and then click add. And once that's done, you can go ahead and click the close button. Now let's go ahead and test that, and we're going to have to make a correction to it. If we go to preview, notice that it started out at 5, and there's a reason for that. We really want it to start out at the double dash. So go back to the edit mode and select it and double click it. And what we want to do is make sure that the top double dash selection is picked when we close this. Now if we preview it again, as you can see, it starts out with the blank selection. So let's go ahead and go back in the edit mode, and now we're going to change the remainder of these. We're going to add drop downs to the remainder 3 options, and there's a quick way to do that. If you click on the first one that you made, right click and copy, and then click outside of that, right click and paste, it will appear somewhere on the screen. You can click and drag it down to the proper position, and double click, make sure under options that you've got the double dash picked first, and then under general we're going to change this particular one to transportation. And then click close. And then we're going to go ahead and repeat that for the next 2. Okay, so I have finished doing the last 2 using the cut and paste technique and renaming them, so those are finished. The last thing we're going to do is add a reset button on the bottom that will allow the user to reset the form. To create a reset button, we're going to go up and find the add a button option that has an OK in it. Click on that, and then find a good place to put your reset button. You can put it just above the thank you, really wherever you want. And then once you click on that, type the word reset, all properties, and then under the options tab, type in the label section start over, and that's what's going to appear inside the button. Now we're going to tell Acrobat what we want it to do, so that's under the actions tab, and we're going to select the action reset a form. It's near the bottom, and click the add button. And you can leave this default, but make sure everything in there is checked so everything will reset, and hit OK. So the last thing we're going to do now is set the appearance of the button, and we're going to start with the border color, and you can actually make it any color you want. We're going to select a dark red here, and the fill color we're going to use a light red. On the line thickness for the border, then we'll make it medium, and then the line style for the border, set it for beveled. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and hit the close button, and you can see now what your start button is going to look like. Now we're going to go ahead and test this now, so click the preview button, and I'm going to shrink it down so we can see the whole thing, and click the start over button, and what you should see is everything clears out and all your boxes go to double dashes and they clear out. So now you can go ahead and test those and make sure everything is working. And once you've done that, go ahead and click the close button. The last thing you're going to do now is rename this file as your lab file to turn in. So it still says Meridian Feedback. We're going to go ahead and do a file, save as, and go ahead and put it in whatever directory you've been working on. I'm in the download folder. And as usual, type your name. This will be Lab 7 Part 1, and click the Save button. After you have saved it under the correct name, you can go ahead and click the X to close your file. Okay, for this last part, we're going to open a different file, and that is the order start.pdf file. And this is another online form. We're going to go back to Tools and click the Prepare Form button like we did before. and then go to the first field. We're just going to be working with this top line here where it says price 0, and double click that. So next we're going to click on the Format tab, and the only thing we're going to change is a currency symbol, and that's going to be a $sign. And then we're going to click on the Validate tab, and we're going to change the range from 0 to 1000, and then click the Close button. We're going to test that validation now in this field, so go ahead and click the Preview button and click on Price Each, and our validation is allowing it to be from 0 to $1,000. So type 2,000 in there and hit the Tab key, and you should get this warning saying invalid value. That is what you're supposed to get. If you type 1,000 in there, as you can see, it accepts it. Click on the Edit button to continue with our editing. The last thing we're going to do is set up this total field so it'll automatically calculate from the price and quantity is going to multiply those two fields. So to do that, click on the total field, and you can either double click it or right click and click on Properties. There's two ways to do that. And then we want to go to the Calculate tab. So we want the total to be the price multiplied by the quantity. So in the Calculate tab, we're going to click the second radio button value is the, and we're going to change that sum to product, which means you're multiplying them. Then click the Pick button, and we're going to pick those two fields. So the first one is quantity, and the first one is quantity 0, and then we're also going to pick price 0, and then hit OK. This is what your screen should look like when you're done. Then hit the Close button. We're going to go ahead and test this now by clicking on Preview. So the price already is 1,000. We can leave that and go ahead and put quantity 3 in the quantity section on the first row, then hit Tab, and as you can see, it automatically totals it to 3,000, which is correct. Go ahead and close this now so we're ready to save the file. Now please note you're not required to do the same operation on the rest of these, only on the first row, so don't worry about doing those calculations and validations on the other 7 rows. Go ahead and save this using a Save As. So click File, Save As, and as usual I'm putting this one in my download folder. You can put it wherever you want, and again, as usual, your name, this will be Lab 7-Part 2, and hit Save. After that, you can go ahead and close this file. The files you'll be submitting on this exercise, there'll be 2 of them. Of course, as usual, your first name, last name. This is going to be -Lab 7, Parts 1 and 2. First one will be the final version of the Meridian feedback form that you've done, and then the second one will be the final version of the Order Start PDF form.